What's happening, everybody? My name is Steve, and welcome to my new YouTube channel, Junk Drummer TV, where I'm going to be doing drum analysis, initial reactions, and giving my hot takes on the drummers of today and yesterday, and maybe tomorrow if I stick around. Before I get into it, I'd like to give a big thank you to Rebecca Vocal Athlete and Tristan Paradis, or Paredes, brother, I'm sure I got your name wrong, but those two really inspired me to get into it. They're both vocal coach YouTubers, and they do react videos as well, and I've watched hours of their videos, and I found them informative, even though I'm not a vocalist at all. But I'd like to thank you because you're the inspiration for me to get into this. If you like music reacts videos, you should go check them out. Rebecca Vocal Athlete, and just look up Vocal Coach Tristan because I can't pronounce his last name. So anyway, I am a professional drum teacher and a gigging musician, and I've been those things for the last 20 years. Professional and musician might be pushing it, but it is what I do. On today's video, we're going to be listening to Neil Peart of Rush do Tom Sawyer. If you're a drummer over the last like 20 or 30 years, you've been through that unhealthy Rush obsession where that's all you talk about is how Neil Peart is the greatest drummer of all time and how Rush is the greatest band of all time. We've all been there. I did that too when I was younger. Of course, you can see my Rush plaque back here given to me by my lead singer because he knows I'm a Rush nerd, or used to be. We all know those Rush nerds who wear Rush boxer shorts. I have a friend who has some. He knows who I'm talking about. So anyway, now that the introductions are over, let's get into my debut video. Every time I hear that intro, I think of myself as like a 13, 14-year-old, locked in my living room, trying to figure out how many, what happened there? How many lawns I have to mow to get a drum set that big. But of course, when you start gigging and you start setting up your own stuff, you realize you don't need all that stuff. He has like 3 people to set all that shit up for him. So right off the bat, and I don't want to get too wonky right now, because if you watch more of these videos, and there's going to be more videos to come, we'll get into technique extensively. But just for the sake of, you can see that Neil's playing a very German technique, which is very hands, palms down. There's 3 major techniques, and we'll talk about them ad nauseum as we go. It's German, French, American. And you can see that he uses German a lot. It's a real strong technique because you're using a lot of wrist. So something that if you've ever done a lot of recording, you would understand. His tom fill is smack dab in the middle with the click track, which of course he's not playing with the click track here, but his tom fill is that. He's not behind the beat like a funk drummer, or on top of the beat like a punk rock drummer, like Stuart Copeland would be. And it gives it a real kind of mechanical feel, but it works perfectly for, a prog band. Yeah, he has a lot of space between the notes. Everything is just, Neil is a carpenter. Everything he does, every right angle is perfectly 90 degrees, and every miter edge is touching. It's perfection in execution is what Neil goes for at all times. I don't think I've ever seen him mess up. I've been watching him since I was 13, since the Show of Hands live video, and I don't think I've ever seen him mess up. It's ridiculous. So yeah, this is the usual guitar solo. in Rush where they go to another time signature. There's a bunch of different time signatures going through here. I'd have to count it out. If I were to guess, there's some 7s in there. They use 7, 8 all the time. Whew, man, Geddy Lee's bass tone. Whew. He actually's pushing the beat right there. What you can do when you're playing live. Like all these God fills. That drum fill right there, one of the #1 things that I get asked about, especially by drummers who come in to take lessons, who are gigging, you know, who are performing, and their #1 complaint is their drum fills are boring. Neil is a great person to kind of freshen up your drum fill ideas. That last drum fill is a great example of what he does. We can get into that habit of, like, you know, we're gonna, our mind says drum fill, and we play a drum fill and it's just the toms, and we end with a crash. Notice what he does. I'm going to bring that back. Notice what he does during this drum fill. He plays his cymbals in the middle of all of his tom figures, and it gives the drum fill like this kind of composition feel, where it's not just toms, snare drum, toms, crash. It's snare drum, toms, crash, crash, snare drum, tom, crash, crash, snare drum, crash. Like, listen to this last drum fill. If you're out there and you're wanting to, like, freshen up your drum fills, this is a great way to kind of, like, start with that. Check this out. Let me bring this back. This one. That one. Those. That's just great composition. And since I've got this stopped, I might as well drop that hot take. I know that when you have Thanksgiving dinner, you have that uncle that comes over and he smells like weird smoke, and he probably has a little longer hair than your dad does, and he's the guy that tells you that Neil Peart is the greatest drummer of all time. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, he is not the greatest drummer of all time. When you just say that Neil Peart is the greatest drummer of all time, you're missing out what Neil Peart actually is. And he's the greatest composer of drums that we've had over the last 30 or 40 years. I think they've been around over 40 years. That's Neil's genius. It's not all the crazy patterns that he plays, because if you were to write out what he plays, it's all, you know, 16th notes, 32nd notes, 6 tuplets, combinations between the hands and the feet, lots and lots of odd times, but there's not a lot of over the top, like independence things between all 4 limbs, a la Danny Carey from Tool. If you just say he's the greatest drummer of all time, you're missing it, because he's not the greatest drummer of all time. And again, this is just my opinion. Neil Peart is the Mozart of drums. If you were to take away all of the music and were to just listen to the drum track, you would know exactly where you were in that song. You would know where the verse was. You would know where the chorus is. You would know where the drum solo is. Not the drum solo, the guitar solo. You would be able to follow that with just the drums, and that's a lost art, in my opinion. Another person, and it's a completely different kind of drummer that does that really well, and this might be just showing my age because I did graduate high school in the 90s, is Dave Grohl. When you listen to Nevermind, you could take the music away and you can listen to the drums and you know exactly where you are in the part. That's why Neil is someone that is worthy of your attention and your adoration. So tell your uncle to quit doing that, maybe. And tell him that Neil Peart is the greatest composer of drums. This part right here is a great example of it. I'm going to stop a lot here. So there, you know, if you were to think about this as like a classical piece, what they're doing is they are recapitulating the theme. They're playing a section that they played a couple verses ago. Geddy, I'm pretty sure, singing the exact same part. The same exact lyrics that were also written by Neil, by the way. Instead of playing that verse that's happening again, the same exact way he did it the first time, he is playing a variation. That word, theme and variation, is as old as Bach and as old as Mozart. You're taking a theme that you've already played with and you're putting variation on it. So you're still attached to the tree. You're going out on a limb, but thematically it still makes sense. So the first time he played this, he was just playing, you know, whatever the 2 and 4 is. You know, it's a 16th note groove on the hi-hat. But this second time they're playing this after this guitar solo, if you notice, he's playing the snare drum on the 1, 2, 3, and 4. That is very interesting drum playing. He could have easily just been like, well, okay, we're playing that second verse again. I'm just going to play the second verse again. But he's making a variation on that. See what I mean? And even those drum fills that go with those unison hits, he's making those drum fills different. You know, he's pushing the tempo from where he played at the beginning. Right there, that little triplet fill. You know, they're playing again another verse that's happened before. Or whatever it was. That's just, you know, him saying, I've already done it this way, let's do it another way. That's classical composition. That's the genius of what Neil brings. Again, playing that triplet again, you know, causing tension in the song because that wasn't there the first time. You know, going from those 16th notes on the hi-hat to that 8th note hi-hat groove right there, that gives a sense of release because he's playing those 16th notes the whole time. Now he's back to the 16th, but when you go from those 16ths to those 8ths, that gives a sense of like breathing in the middle of a phrase. It's crazy those 3 people make all this sound. He's so good. Man, I just remembered this, and this is something that you can really take from Neil. If my rantings about his wonderful composition wasn't enough. I think this was in the early aughts or late 90s. Neil Peart, a guy that everyone said is one of the greatest drummers of all time, and he is, decided to start taking drum lessons again. He started taking drum lessons from this guy named Freddie Gruber. You can search all this stuff's on YouTube. I'm sure the Freddie Gruber lessons are on there. Neil Peart, who everyone says is this god of drums, and he is, said, you know what? I've reached a plateau, and I'm going to go find someone else who will help me. And he went to Freddie Gruber, and if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on this, Freddie Gruber is kind of the drum teacher to the stars. He's a little bit like Dom Famularo. If I'm not mistaken, Freddie Gruber's like taught like, you know, a lot of really big name jazz players. He was a jazz drummer. And Neil Peart, at the height of his powers, at the height of just like, you know, posters and magazine articles and covers of everything, decided that like he's going to go back to the woodshed and he's going to get better. And when that happened, his drum setup changed a lot. Like if you watched a lot of him, I think it's like around Roll the Bones, around that era, his drum set, the way it's set up changed. He played traditional grip for a while. That didn't last very long because traditional grip doesn't really fit playing a gigantic drum set like he has to play in Rush. But like if that doesn't inspire you to go break through those walls that we all run up against in our creativity, man, nothing will. Because if like a guy who is rich and famous decides to go back and say, here, drum teacher guy who knows more than me, make me better, then like, man, just pack your stuff up in the cases because your drumming and musical career is done. That's really inspirational. It's kind of move that time around a little bit. He's kind of moved it back a little bit there. He was pushing it. And live, that's fine. You know, you still want to hear the musician emote. Oh man, listening to Neil just makes me happy. Just something a little new. Yeah, like a new little preamble to the end of it. Yeah, that's awesome. Neil Peart. Again, the thing that I think that you can take away from Neil: composition, composition, composition. That's all that matters. Being able to come up with great drum parts that matches the song perfectly. In today's age, on you know, the YouTube shred video is the thing. Watching a drummer just play a bunch of crazy, over the top, chop-tastic awesomeness, craziness, and I like watching those videos too. But that's not how you get the gig. That's not how you make music that lasts. It's taking a song and respecting that songwriter, and giving that songwriter, he or she, the exact perfect drum part that matches what they've worked on. That's how you get paid, and that's how you make songs that get you into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Not that I know anything about that, because I definitely won't be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So there you go, man. Neil Peart playing Tom Sawyer with Rush. If you enjoyed that and would like to help me out, please give me a double tap on the subscription and the notification bell. Please feel free to comment, like, and share. And in the comments section, please give me any videos that you would like for me to react, because I'll be watching all those comments and I'll try to reply to as many as I can. When you're trying to give me react videos, let's not try to make it just drum cam videos, because I think that will limit us, and I want to be able to watch any video with any drummer. But I do know there's a lot of drum cam videos, and I'm going to be doing a lot of those, especially at first. So anyway, there you go, man. I've been working on this YouTube channel for like 2 months, trying to get all the logistics and all the tech down, and I'm so glad I finally got it done, and I hope everyone liked it. So anyway, man, I'm Steve. This is Junk Drummer TV, and keep practicing until it's easy.